to Rec Chat. My name is Earl Cabellin, and I'm coming to you live from my professional home at the University of Maryland College Park. And joining us today is Erica Estes, our NIRSA student leader, and Stan Shingles, our NIRSA president. Thank you to all of you who are joining us live right now, whether it's the Twitterverse or on YouTube. So just make sure that you are using the RecChat hashtag. If you are here today, let us know that you're here and you're watching, and we'll hopefully give you a shout out throughout the show. I just want to say a big thank you to Will Moore and Rochelle Harvey, our two RecChat team members who are running the back channels today, so we appreciate their help in getting everything organized. Just a couple of housekeeping items to note. On Wednesday, October 21st, we will be having another RecChat session regarding student development, and on Wednesday, November 18th at 3 p.m. Eastern, we will have another live Google Hangout regarding digital technology. So make sure you mark your calendars for those events. We also want to give a big shout out and thank you to our friends at the NIRSA headquarters in Corvallis, Oregon, for all of their support in helping marketing to this afternoon's event and just their constant support for the membership. So we thank everyone at the NIRSA headquarters. Just some final announcements too. We want you to be on our show, and if you are brave enough to come join us, we have a couple boxes over here that you can actually join us live and ask Erica and Stan any questions that you might have regarding networking. So just send us a direct message via Twitter, and we'll send you the link to be on the show. If you want to follow us on Twitter, again, I would recommend just following the hashtag RecChat and answer any questions that you might have for Erica and Stan. And so that's all the announcements that I have for me. So without further ado, I'm really excited to introduce our esteemed panel of networking experts, Stan and Erica. So let's start off with getting to know both of them. So we'll start off with Stan Shingles.
Well, first of all, thank you, Earl, for having us on the show today. Certainly appreciate it. Appreciate the opportunity to be a part of this. And as you mentioned, my name is Stan Shingles, and currently serving as your NIRSA president. Very, very honored and humbled to have that opportunity. I'm currently the assistant vice president for University Recreation at Central Michigan University. A month ago, I started my 26th year at CMU. Okay, no jokes, guys, about maybe I've been here longer than most of you have been alive, but I've really enjoyed my time here. Previously, I spent some time at Northern Illinois University, and prior to that, my experience as a student and as a graduate assistant at Illinois State University, my alma mater, where I got both my bachelor's and my master's. Been an engaged member of NIRSA since 1987. Yep, I know that's a long time as well. But I have really had a lot of great experiences as part of this association, and I guess collegiate recreation kind of runs through the Shingles bloodlines a little bit. My wife Renee, who's a professor here at Central Michigan University in athletic training and sports medicine, previously a graduate assistant at Illinois State University in the campus recreation program, also worked as an undergraduate assistant at University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, and then my son Lamar, who's currently the director of campus recreation at Hamline University in St. Paul, Minnesota, and my daughter-in-law Corey, who until most recently served as a staff member on the staff at the University of Minnesota in the Twin Cities. Now I have to add that my grandson Jayden will break the cycle of collegiate recreation because he's only 6 years old, but he's currently studying to be a brain surgeon. So he's going to break the cycle and not be a part of collegiate recreation. But as you can see, it's been a great career and wonderful opportunities, not only for me, but also for my family as well.
Great, thank you for that. Erica.
Hey y'all, so great to be with you, and again, thanks to both Will and Rochelle and Earl for setting this fantastic event up. We're so happy to be with you on this fantastic Wednesday. little bit about myself. I'm currently serving as the Graduate Assistant of Facilities and Fitness at Southern Miss down in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. Previously, I did my undergrad at James Madison University and worked for 3 years, the 3 years that I was at JMU, some various positions, and got engaged with NIRSA the last year that I was at James Madison, and of course got the bug immediately. Looking through the graduate assistant positions, I had a lot of different opportunities and found a great fit down here in the South. So I've learned a lot about not only NIRSA since my undergrad and grad experience, but also about different facilities and how things are run in different places. So I've been grateful for the opportunities that NIRSA and Campus Rec as a whole has provided me, and I'm looking forward to finding a position within the next year professionally and continuing to stay in this field that I'm so passionate about.
Thank you both for your introductions. And so we'll just get right into it, and we'll start off with Erica first. You know, as a student leader, you know, what does networking mean to you when we talk about this topic of networking and we hear about it? What does it mean to you?
So prior to even getting involved in Campus Rec, I really wasn't sure what networking was as a whole. And it's funny how things kind of work in cycles, and unintentionally in high school, it's the start of my Campus Rec career and the interest in that. I had a vice principal in high school who happened to be the wife of the director at James Madison University, and from some of the interactions that I had with her and the relationships that I established through mutual interest in sports and the competitive nature that we both had is kind of what opened the door for me into getting involved in Campus Rec. And so that was kind of the first experience that I had with networking that I didn't realize was going to open a great door for me, both academically and professionally. But as a whole, networking really means to me that it's the way that I've gained majority of the knowledge that I have through Campus Rec. And for me, it's just individuals come together with a genuine passion for one another and the field of study through which they are both passionate about, and meaningful and lasting relationships and trust can really be built when you have intentional networking opportunities. And NIRSA provides that perfect platform for all of us, both students and professionals alike, to share knowledge, skills, and interests through open communication, whether that's through social media, whether that's through the annual and regional conferences that we have each year. So when I enter into a networking opportunity, one of my main goals is really to determine what I can do to further that student specifically as a NIRSA student leader, since those are more the interactions that I have. So what can I do to further that student's mission? What can I do to further their passions? And how can I help them move on to the next step of their career? But additionally, another goal that I have is to just intently listen to what that student or professional has to say, because not only is it an opportunity for me to help another student, but everyone has their own unique and individual experiences, and that's a great chance for me to learn and grow personally and professionally as well. So networking has taken me great places, and I've gotten to learn so many different things, but that's a little bit of what that means to me at this point in my career.
Excellent. Well, thank you for that. Stan, how about you? What does networking mean to you?
Well, you know, it's everything that Erica said, and Erica, thank you for those comments. So well said, because I think when we talk about networking, you know, it's part of our personal and professional map that we have. We all have a compass in our experiences that takes us to all different types of places through all different types of experiences. But I guess as I kind of categorize it a little bit, I see it as kind of the professional human interaction that you have throughout this journey within your personal and professional life, because I think networking I think is intersected both personally and professionally. But I think the elements that are most important in good networking opportunities are building authentic relationships, relationships that are lasting and sustainable, relationships that are meaningful, that have purpose to them, and relationships that provide for you oftentimes not necessarily what you always want, but oftentimes what you need. And I'm a true believer that your journey, you know, I always say, you know, we're all the product of the sum total of our experiences. So that means everything that you experience in your life has a purpose within your life. And you know, how many things have we experienced that we would like to erase within our personal or professional experience? Well, there are many. Well, if you do, then the foundation of your entire experience changes. And so when we talk about this journey of networking, have an open and consistent communication with those individuals that you connect with. Building those authentic relationships where you don't go into a networking relationship with the motive of, I'm going to have a professional interaction with this person because they're going to help me find a job. Well, if you don't build the right foundations in that relationship, that person can't help you. Oftentimes we try to do it, build those relationships on name recognition versus the substantive aspects of relationships that help people to authentically support you in whatever it is that you're doing. Some of the best professional relationships become personal relationships. I've had individuals that I've developed those relationships with over the years who call and they ask for counsel about getting married or having a family or making decisions about where to live and all of those things. And that's what I mean when I say authentic relationships, because if we use the experiences that we have to build on who we aspire to be, then that's a pretty good foundation. And I think networking certainly plays a critical part of that.
Wow. Really great answers. Thank you so much for your insights on that. So let's get into more like concrete, tangible stuff. And if you can share with the audience, Erica, a story, and I know you had alluded to some examples before, but is there a strong, poignant moment or example of networking that resonated with you?
I reached out to a couple of students, the undergrads that I supervised here, because I wanted to share a story that wasn't necessarily about me personally, but someone else's experience. So I reached out to one of our undergrads who actually got the opportunity to go on the Take a Student to Lunch opportunity at the past annual conference, and she was able to get to know 10 other students that are NIRSA members and also get to network and interact with those that have scholarships and awards named after them, the Wassons and the Moody's. Got to interact with Stan and some other past presidents that we have. And I was actually able to go on that event as well. And so I reached out to her and just asked her thoughts on what that networking opportunity was for her and how it really impacted her life. And with that being her first annual conference, it was a great opportunity for her to feel comfortable interacting with students that have similar interests and are on similar levels of experience. And so she's also been in contact with those individuals still, and they're both going through the graduate assistant process, and they've been able to trade ideas back and forth and what some of the struggles and some success stories that they've had in the past year as they continue to grow into different positions, leadership roles here at their university. I know Bria, the student that was able to go to this opportunity, has started to take on a program assistant role in her aquatics position, and she's been able to talk to several of those students what some of the hard skills and the soft skills are that they've struggled with at their university and some things that have been successful measures. So that was one story. I know that's very pointed experience and not everyone is able to have that opportunity, but again, that was one networking opportunity that she was able to take part in and really thought as if it was extremely beneficial for her as she begins to build her NIRSA network as a first-year annual attendee.
Great. Thank you. Stan.
Well, first of all, I appreciate Erica telling that very positive and empowering story of networking, because I'm going to tell a bit of a tragic story of networking, and it's only for reasons of context, of understanding. I talked about authentic relationships and the importance of your motives and building positive and constructive relationships with individuals. I was at a lead-on conference a number of years ago, and one of my mentors who is active part of lead-on for years and was standing with that person, and a student came up and introduced themselves. and just said I'm from such and such, and the general small talk of that first interaction, and that was kind of the extent of the interaction. A few months later, that person that I was with received a phone call from a employer looking for a reference for this person. And if I'm a reference for Earl Cabellon, and somebody calls me and says, "Hey, I want to give you a reference. Can you give a reference on Earl Cabellon?" And my reply is, "Who is Earl Cabellon?" That's probably not a good thing. Probably not a good thing. And that's what happened in this situation. And the person could not connect with who this person was. So first of all, you ran into a situation that you didn't ask permission. Second of all, there was nothing authentic about that relationship. It was just a meeting kind of in passing. But this person had the perspective that if I have this person as a reference for me, it's going to ensure my success in whatever I do, because their name recognition and their profile within the association, the respect and the like that people had for this individual, where now this individual had to be something that they didn't want to be, and that was a person who could not support a person in the right way. So I tell that tragic story because we so often talk about the importance of networking, especially with young people. When I say young people, and as we're going into our professional world, undergraduates and even at some level graduate students, but we don't tell them how, and more importantly, why. We just say, you just need to do as much networking when you go to state, regional, lead on, annual conference, and we don't talk about the why. And the why is really important. So again, I tell that story only for context of how networking can be detrimental in terms of how this person saw it through their lens as being something positive by listing a reference with someone that they really didn't have a relationship with, and that person ultimately not being able to substantiate a relationship with that individual to be able to support them. And that's one of a story that I tell often, because I think it's one that opens people's eyes that you better know the individuals that you're asking to support you in behalf of whatever it is you might be doing.
Yeah, it's all great points. Thank you for sharing. Mm-hmm. All right, Erica, when we talk about the why, and Stan alluded to that, what do you tell students as the NIRSA student leader? Like, what is some strategies to become proficient in the art of networking?
I think, as we kind of talked about how to become an expert, there's a couple things that in my mind that I would try to relay to students, and one, that they need to understand what their individual strengths are, what their passions are, and what their interests are within the field or outside of the field, so that they know when they go to these different things what some of the topics of conversation might be and how they can communicate well during those opportunities. Going off the communication thing, I think that students also need to know what their unique style of communication is, so that they are able to understand where in a conversation they're best suited to engage and interact with others. And they also need to understand that networking isn't just the opportunity for me, for example, to come in and broadcast about myself and tell everyone what my strengths are and where that I need them to help me out. Really, it's more about actively listening to those around you, and again, creating that authentic relationship that Stan has been alluding to so far. So after just talking about those interests and what those strengths are, me, for example, I'm more passive and introverted in nature, and so knowing that that is my personality and the tendency that I'm going to lean towards in a networking setting, I strive to speak only when I see necessary and when I can definitely add value to a conversation. And to me, networking is about how well you can incorporate your individual and unique voice into the perspectives of those around you, and so that you can have the most meaningful impact to those around you as well. And again, it's just practice. It's not going to be something that you're going to feel leaving your first networking opportunity that you really hit it a home run out of the park. It's just learning again about yourself, what different experiences and opportunities are going to lead to, and how you can best add your perspectives into a conversation.
Great. Stan.
Well, expert sounds to me a little bit like a destination, and I think networking is really a journey, because I think it has an ebb and flow to it. I don't think it's anything that's finite. I don't think it's anything that is exact. I think it changes based on situations and circumstances, and part of your own journey. And when I think about it, I think about developing your own style of networking, how you communicate, how you engage, how you follow up, how that human communication that I talked about earlier, and more importantly, how you shape your motives for what you do. Erica just gave a wonderful example of a student who had basically a chance experience being chosen one out of, and if I remember the methodology of choosing individuals to have lunch with President Brayton and some other selected folks last year at the annual conference, or this past year at the annual conference. It was just a chance. It wasn't anything that person had prepared for. So when that comes, are you ready for it? That's the question I think that has to be asked. So having your own way of doing it as opposed to someone else's perspective, I think is going to expose you a little bit, because if you're trying to be something that you're not, if you're trying to be, Erica talked about being an introvert, so she's probably not going to try to be an extrovert if she's trying to build an authentic relationship just to connect with individuals. Sometimes we have to challenge ourselves to work outside of our comfort zone and outside of our own box and our own heads sometimes, but for the most part, we are who we are. So I think it's important that we understand it's not one size fits all, that there's various degrees of similarities in terms of styles of networking, but I don't know if you ever become a person who becomes an expert. I'm a storyteller. Let me take a moment to indulge you in a story. In 1993, I had the opportunity to start working with our sports network here at Central Michigan University. I became one of the voices of the Chippewas, if you will, for football and basketball. So I traveled all over the country with our men's basketball program and our football program. And of course, the first thing I did when I got off the bus or got off the plane was head to the rec center, because one, that was my comfort level, and two, that was one of the vehicles that I used for building my network outside of the state of Michigan, outside of Region 3, and more importantly, being able to extend myself in regions of the country with people that I did not know. And I did that for reasons of building a network. But now we have to remember, 1993 is pre-internet. So it's not a get online and see that Jay Gilchrist is the director at the University of Maryland. Couldn't do that. So I had to research who and what and when and where, and go into those situations probably lacking a lot less preparation than I would today. I could get online and know who the whole staff is, how long they've been there, and what their interests are, and so on and so forth. And I use that as an example because I think when we start talking about expertise, my expertise was shaped by virtue of I realized it wasn't all the same. There were some places that I called where people had no interest in connecting. That's just not what they were interested in doing. Now it hurts your feelings a little bit, and you kind of feel like, oh, wait a minute, why wouldn't you want to interact with me? I'm a good guy. But you realize that one size doesn't fit all. Now, one of the things that we do know about our profession is our people are engaging. So 9 out of 10 of those experiences were people embracing you and engaging you, but also provide an opportunity for you, because oftentimes I would send a note through mail, not through email, but through mail saying, hey, I'm going to be on the campus in 3 weeks. I'm coming with our basketball team. Hope you come to the game. Maybe I'll get a chance to stop by the rec center. And then our people, they'll put you to work. So then you get a note back saying, hey, our sport club council meets that afternoon. Can you come and speak with them? Sure, I can. And that's what I talk about when I say one size doesn't fit all, because I don't know. I've been to hundreds of rec centers. I've seen hundreds of programs around this country by virtue of that experience being provided for me to go to places like Boise, Idaho. Would not have been on my bucket list, not to offend the folks at Boise, but would not have been on my bucket list of places that I would go. University of Wyoming, not on the bucket list. And I just offer those perspectives because I think it helps us to understand when those opportunities avail themselves, that we have to take advantage of them. And I was able to build some long, meaningful, and lasting relationships by virtue of that initial introduction. So that's just a story that just underscores that. Don't know if you're ever an expert at it, because it changes, but you can get good at it if you engage in it in a way that is honest, forthright, and authentic.
Great. Wow. Thank you so much. Very, very inspiring stuff from Erica and Stan. We're going to pause for a moment, though, and give Erica and Stan a little bit of break from talking. And we're just going to check the Twitter sphere and see if we can give some shout-outs to some folks who are tweeting right now. So we got to give a shout-out to my man, Scott Flickinger of Cornell. Scott, thanks for joining us today and tweeting out your thoughts on networking. So if you don't follow Scott, you probably should. He is a big deal. If someone were to call me about Scott, I would know who Scott Flickinger is. We got Dan Renfo, at Dan Renfo, who is also tweeting. Thank you so much, Dan, for joining us. Roger Jers is also at RogerJ_52. Thank you for following us. Keep the tweets coming. We have some questions that we'll have some time at the end to ask Stan and Erica to answer. And so thank you everyone for joining us. Let's get into the next set of questions. And this is kind of up my realm of interest with technology and the impacts technology has had. And Stan alluded to that. You couldn't go online in 1993 to find out who people were. Technology has really changed the way we do our business. So my question, and maybe we'll start off with Stan on this one, if you don't mind. Stan, being the seasoned professional that you are, what is some of the greatest challenges that technology has kind of impacted as a result of networking? And what have you seen?
Well, I think it starts with the instant connection that can be made. If I know, and I guess the plus side of that is the instant connection. The downside of that is you're expected to be instantly connected. So I talked about going to schools and visiting, and I had to really research it. And I don't know if you guys have ever seen this before, but this used to be my Bible, if you will, for NIRSA when I traveled, and I would take it with me because there was no internet to reference. And if I wanted to know who the intramural director was at the University of Maryland, if I was going to College Park or if I was going to DC or wherever, you had to have resources. Today, there's almost no excuse to not know. That's a new expectation. When you walk into situations, people expect you to know. They expect you to have done your homework. They expect you to be engaged. And that, when we talk about technology, especially as it relates to, if I were interviewing someone at the annual conference for a position at Central Michigan University, and they sat down and had a discussion with me, and they said to me, "Where is Central Michigan University?" That would be problematic because you would have expected today. So that's the down. Where before, you had to know where Central Michigan. Somebody had to tell you where Central Michigan was. Whereas today, you're expected to know by virtue of the world being small, resources being available. And you know what? If you're sitting in the airport getting ready to go for an interview and you don't know where you're going, you can Google it today. It's a little bit different. So that's I think that's a bit of the downside of networking. I'm sorry, of technology as it relates to networking, is people expect you to know sometimes what you don't know.
Great. Erica, your thoughts on the impacts of technology when dealing with networking?
So again, like Stan said, I'm going to kind of tell a story to go along with what I have to say with this one. But I think even growing up in the technological age that we're in and having access to the internet all through high school and undergrad and now in grad school, I think the perception that society has of my generation in particular is that we prefer interactions through technology as to communicate with one another and to acquire knowledge and to express ourselves personally, whether that's through social media or online blogs or anything like that. But to me, like deep down, our generation still desires that intentional personal interaction that the face-to-face networking opportunities provide. And so technology has moved us forward, networking, fantastic, leaps and bounds. But again, I don't think that we should lose the roots that we have in those face-to-face, really tangible interactions that allow us to be physically present with one another and share some of our ideas. And so, as some students are beginning to look towards that graduate assistant position or maybe that next professional role, technology is now being plugged into those interviewing opportunities. And recently going through the graduate assistant interview process, that expectation that that first interview is going to be a Skype conversation where, again, that's an opportunity where you need to express your knowledge, like Stan mentioned about the university, about who's working, its location, some of the programs that it offers. But this kind of conversation often, for the first time meeting someone, kind of makes people feel a bit awkward sometimes. Conversations can be a bit distorted. And so I feel like conversations become more fluid and more genuine, and your true personality can really shine when you have those interactions face-to-face. And for me, when I'm able to meet those future employers one-on-one at different conferences, it really allowed me to express myself to the best that I was able to do. So yes, technology does give us a whole lot of opportunities that we wouldn't be able to do, especially as our association grows in the United States. And so we'll be able to spread those networking roots and branches beyond what we might be able to see someone in a week or month basis. So that is great benefit to technology, but again, some things that are a bit challenging and face-to-face interactions can help facilitate.
Yeah, you bring up some good points, and I think, the part of the topic of digital technology for our November 18th session is actually going to be circled around this, specifically when we look at social networking sites like LinkedIn. And and we were just having a conversation with some students here at the University of Maryland of, at what point is it good to connect with people on LinkedIn? A lot of folks just feel like, hey, I got 1,000 connections, what am I doing with that? And so when you're looking at technology and things like LinkedIn, I think we need to remind our students and even our professionals that, an online connection is a real connection that can be authentic, kind of like what Stan said earlier, and how do you leverage those platforms to better network? So really, really interesting stuff, and, looking forward to talking a little bit more about the impacts of technology at our next show in November. So
let me offer something quickly, also related to that, Earl. People talk about Facebook, and some of the hazards of Facebook. Facebook was designed to connect people together. So it goes back to what I was talking about when I said, if your motives are right, if you're forthright and you're honest and you're authentic, then then Facebook doesn't become a threat to you because you're going to use it responsibly. You're going to use, because today we know anything that goes out in cyberspace is able to be retrieved by somebody. So just because you delete it doesn't mean that it's deleted. So as you're leaving your technology footprint, make sure that it's one from a networking lens that doesn't come back to haunt you in terms of behavioral things or communication things or other types of things that might not be in your best light in terms of how people perceive and try to understand you. So I see Facebook. I'm connected with hundreds of NIRSA members through Facebook, but I don't have anything to hide. So I see that as a great communication tool to be able to connect you with people so that as you build those authentic relationships, you know a little bit about people because you're almost interacting through that social media real time. So you know of a milestone, graduation of a child or death of a parent or whatever those things that might be a part of people's lives where in that authentic relationship you can support those things.
Yeah, great point. All right, on to our next question. Erica, what can you tell our student members of NIRSA, just some things that they can do at their next regional conference, state association workshop? What kind of advice can you give them as they go into these professional development opportunities to build a better network?
So going back to what we kind of said about becoming an expert or continuing to develop as a network, continue to develop as to how to build your network, go back to really figuring out what your passions are and figuring out what your communication style is and how you want to express yourself prior to engaging and going to those conferences. But once you're there, I think students really need to approach a conference with open minds and attentive ears because, again, a big part of networking is listening to what others have to say and not always being the first to speak. There's so much to glean from the students that have been engaged in NIRSA for years as well as the seasoned professionals that have been in our association, have created our association from the ground up. And so, again, that's another reason why students need to go in there, understanding that this is a great opportunity to just soak in as much information as you can, especially if you're a first conference attendee. I would also encourage students to just spark conversations with those that they have never met before. I'm not too far removed from that first time NIRSA conference, and so sometimes there is that experience where you see professionals that have titles, whether those are perceived titles that we see as students as the first time or their actual titles that they hold within NIRSA or at their institutions. But I encourage students to just kind of get over those titles and approach people for the interest that they might have or the personality traits that they see and maybe are trying to model as a professional as they continue to grow. So just encourage them to reach out to any and all people and as many people as they can that they find a genuine interest in, think that they might be able to interact and engage in an authentic relationship that would encourage them and promote them through the rest of their professional career. And but also encourage them to ask open-ended questions, ones that will lead to conversations as they're engaged and interacting in a converse so they can establish those lasting relationships by getting to know people and asking them questions that encourage them to open up both personally and professionally will again help to create those authentic relationships that are going to be able to carry them forward beyond what that conference 2 or 3 days worth are. And like Ken was saying, the follow-up portion of a networking opportunity is extremely beneficial. So asking students or encouraging them to send a follow-up email or get their phone number and give them a call a couple days after the conference, send them a thank you card for spending time taking them to lunch, grabbing coffee with them, and so that there is that tangible piece that that professional or that other student that they meet with is able to hold on to. And again, another thing that with social media and with technology these days, that follow-up call might lead them to kind of look into what your face looks like and to put a face with a name, because at conferences we all know that we meet so many people, and often having a face to put with that name is often a good thing to do after that follow-up.
Yeah, great insight, Erica. I think, when you were talking, I was kind of flashbacking to a conference after I presented, and the student who was in the audience simply just came up to me after my presentation and just told me I did a great job. And we to this day we've been in touch and connected, because they took that leap of faith, and they took that chance just to do those small things like you talked about. And I think it's important that students remember those small things go a long way to professionals. And so great advice and great insight. Stan, what about you? As the leader of our association, what's the message for our students?
Well, I think it goes back to some of the things that Erica said earlier. I was looking, following Twitter here a little bit, and my good buddy Scott Flickinger said it's like getting to Carnegie Hall, practice, 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 And I agree. It's about preparation. And today, there's no excuse. You don't have to have a mentor to prepare. You don't have to be the most knowledgeable person in the world. You don't have to have a keen insight. But if you're a student and you're going to a conference, really understanding the environment, and you can find that through technology, can help you to understand the environment. Know the who. If a student comes to the annual conference, for instance, and that student has no idea who Erica Estes is, that's an unprepared student. Erica, as the National NIRSA Student Leader, that's not the holy grail of leadership. She knows there's leadership positions all across the platform for students in our association. But that's one that's most visible. You can find that one. It sticks out. And so when individuals don't lean in, if I can use that terminology, and don't engage themselves, then they're not going to find an appropriate path to effective networking. So I'll just add that from the perspective of lean in, prepare, or practice, practice, practice. And more importantly, maybe as you're starting on your campus, start to develop a comfort level to be able to approach individuals, to be able to ask substantive questions that will raise awareness, and in many instances raise your profile of people being aware of who you are by virtue of how you've engaged. So I think some of those things come to light. Now, here's the challenging side of it is it's intimidating, it's daunting, it's scary. I remember going to my first conference in 1987 and walking in, and I didn't know anybody but the people on my campus. And fortunately, the nature of how people embrace one another in this association helped me to develop a comfort level where I said, if I can interact with that, and I was fortunate in my first conference, state conference, the president-elect of NIRSA was in that state, Tony Clemens from the University of Illinois. And if you know Tony, he's 6'5", he's a big guy, he's got a big voice, he's the funniest guy in the world. And I said, if I can connect with him, I can connect with anybody. And now, granted, probably the first 3 years that after I met Tony, he affectionately called me, "Hey, you," but that's okay, as long as he was acknowledging me. That's all that mattered. And Tony's been a great mentor and a person who I've modeled a lot of my career after, as I've watched him do the things that he do. And I just offer that perspective only for reasons of you got to find your place. And your place is not always the same place as others, as you go into these professional development experiences.
Yeah.
If I could just echo real quick what Stan said, and the fact that he approached that president and president-elect at his first state conference. And I want students to know that we're not these big scary monsters that are up on this platform that we can't be spoken to. Like, we took these leadership roles because we want to speak to professionals. And so if we're stopped 100 times down the hall because it's someone reaching out to us because they have an interest in maybe something that we're passionate about or something that we're doing at our university or for the association, that's what we're here for. That's the love that we have for NIRSA and the field that we're engaged in. So I hope that perception can start to crumble down as time goes on, and that students and professionals alike feel comfortable approaching people in leadership roles.
Great. So, and I'll throw this out to Stan first. There's a lot of younger and mid-level professionals that are probably watching this right now, who probably say, you know what, I'm going to go to a conference. I don't have time to network. I gotta do this. What do you say to those professionals who have been in their roles for quite a few years and really don't see value with networking?
Well, I think it starts with, what are their motives? I think today, we talk about the whole mantra of it's not what you know, it's who you know. Well, that vernacular has changed. Now it's not what you know, it's not who you know, it's who knows you. Okay, and in many instances, whether it's engagement in professional opportunities within this association, who knows you is important because there are a whole lot of people vying for those opportunities. This year, there were more than 100 people as the NIRSA president who's charged with populating committees and commissions and task forces throughout the association. More than 100 people were turned away from experiences. So now I don't make all of those decisions in isolation. They're done in consultation with current leaders in those various structures within NIRSA. But who knows you plays an important part of that. And so as you talk about professional opportunities, in many cases today we're recruiting people for positions, and because of our knowledge and understanding of who they are and what their skill sets are and their abilities are. So I would challenge those who have not engaged to engage, because today there's an expectation. There's an expectation of that. There's an expectation to, especially if you work at institutions that are engaged, there's an expectation of you to be engaged in your professional association in a volunteer leader capacity. Those that are engaged. There's a expectation as you're being recruited in employment for the same thing. So I offer that to individuals so that they understand that there's a bit of a scoreboard that's being kept. I get a chance often to interact with NIRSA leaders across the whole platform of NIRSA. And these are the discussions that are taking place. And it is a bit of a scoreboard in terms of who knows you and what are the things that you're doing. So I think, if you are in an interview and someone asks you a question of certain people who, by virtue of being engaged in this association, you should know, and you say, who? I have no idea who you're talking about. My first thought is, didn't prepare, didn't practice, didn't understand the importance and value of. Because not that it's a popularity contest in any way, but there is, most of us know who the president of the United States is, whether we voted for him or not. We know, because you should know. There's certain things that you should know. If this is the profession that you engage in, you should know who the principal individuals are who are helping to move the association in the direction that it's moving.
Right. Erica, any thoughts from, I guess, from the other side as you've observed professionals with this?
Yeah, I'm kind of going to lead off of what Stan was mentioning about it's not who you know, it's who knows you. And not only is it who knows you, but why do they know you? Is it for a positive reason or is it for a negative reason? At conferences, we often have the opportunity to partake in different social opportunities, which is, again, is a perfect platform for us to network, but it can also be used in an irresponsible way as well. And I think as professionals and graduate assistants, when we begin to tell our students how to act at conferences and what they should be doing networking-wise or attending sessions, we often tell them, behave correctly. There's always people watching. You never know when you might meet the person who potentially might be your supervisor one day or might open the door for another job opportunity. And for me, as still being in a student role in a sense, I would encourage professionals to try their best to set an example for the students that are around them, because again, not only are people watching students' behaviors, but people are watching professionals' behaviors just as much, especially students, because students who have never attended a conference before are looking to those professionals at their university as to how to act, who should they be talking to, how should they be engaging in the conference, and where should they be going. And so I would just encourage professionals to just be ever mindful of that, make sure that they're setting an example of what that's going to look like. And I would also just encourage them to help introduce students to potential professionals that might have the same passions as them and might be able to provide that authentic relationship down the road for that student. And so not we as professionals that have been in NIRSA for a while have that established NIRSA family, so that when we go to conferences, we know all the people that we're going to interact with. We have people to spend meals with and go to coffee with, and we have those things that are already established for us. But our students might not necessarily have that benefit at this point, and so we need to be sure that we're being intentional as to introducing to those students to people that could be that to them in the future, so that they can continue to grow and build their NIRSA family, so to speak, so that when they go to the next conference or the next lead-on, they have someone that they can reach out to and feel as if they're a part of something bigger than themselves.
Wow, really powerful stuff from Stan and Erica. Thank you so much. We have probably time for two more questions, or one more question before the final thought. And so I'm going to skip down to our question pool to, Stan, how do you maintain these connections once they've been formed? What are some strategies that you would give to the folks out there watching today?
Well, it's interesting. I don't know if I want to offer the perspective of strategy or of what the tactics would be. Or strategies. I think it's really more about the philosophy, and it goes back to what I was saying earlier about authentic relationships. So you got to work at it. It's like a marriage. It's like any relationship. It's like school. You got to commit to it. And if you're committed to it, you'll find the right balance in terms of the time that you need to invest in it to make it work. I think the best relationships are those where you walk into the room and the conversation starts with someone that you haven't seen in 3 months, and it picks up right where it left off. And that's there's a bit of an art to that. And I think, I talked about one size not fitting all, and I want to stay committed to that, because I don't want our viewers and listeners to think that, this is the way you have to do it. Find your place in it. And more importantly, make the necessary commitments to those interactions so that who knows you becomes more than, I think I've seen that person before. Who knows you becomes essential in those in that bridge building that needs to take place, especially for younger professionals who are making the climb within their professional careers.
Great. Erica.
So following up with what Stan said again, you got to find what works best for your personality and the passions that you have. So for example, Earl, with his interest and passion in technology and social media, he might follow up with someone through LinkedIn or RecChat or some of the different mediums that we have. I personally might send an actual card via snail mail. I know, kind of old school, but you just got to find which ways suit your personality as to how you stay engaged with those people. And so I would encourage students follow up either via email, again, phone call, or sending a card to them, just thanking them for their time. And so just find your own style and figure out how you can stay invested in those people. And again, maybe reach out and start to talk to each other about your personal lives so that you can have something that you can stay in touch with each other. Maybe what's going on, like Stan was talking about, maybe there's a marriage in the family or someone's giving birth. It's something that you can open that conversation with. That personal conversation might then again lead into a professional conversation.
Yeah, great advice. I was taught by one of my mentors the 3 F's of networking, which is, talk about family, friends, and then your favorites. And so that's always a good launching pad to sharing with those that you're networking with. So great advice. Well, it's getting to that hour, and I want to kind of leave some time for some final thoughts. And so, Stan, why don't you just share with us any final thoughts? And then I'll also ask that if you want to share with those viewers who are watching us now or will watch us later on through our YouTube channel, what are you, Stan Shingles, passionate about? Why should someone want to network with Stan Shingles?
Well, I think I think my passion starts with building authentic relationships with people, and that's part of authentic relationships are you understand the relationship for what it is, not necessarily for what you want it to be. That's what makes it authentic. It is what it is. And do you want every relationship to be meaningful? Do you want every relationship to be substantive? Do you want every relationship to be never ending? That could be a little tiring. So you got to understand the relationships for what they are. And I truly believe that. And I think as I have reached out and connected with those individuals throughout our profession, and I think evidence for me is, I visit my professional friends and colleagues and people in my network when I'm on vacation. It drives my wife absolutely nuts, but she gets it that that's part of my fuel. That's part of my passion, is to connect with these individuals because always get a chance to go to their campus. So if I'm in that area by virtue of some personal or family travel, I pick and choose and try to find connect points. And today through Facebook, people say, but wait a minute, you went to the university but you didn't come to my school and you were right down the road. So there is some challenges with that as well. And I think through my footprint, you'll see that those authentic relationships that I have been built by putting the work in to make sure that they're sustained.
Excellent. Erica, final thoughts and your passions.
So like Stan said, I really like those authentic and genuine relationships, and because of my more introverted and shy personality, I might not be the one that has a group of 100 friends that I reach out to occasionally, but I'm going to have a group of 10 where I'm really going to invest in them and see what I can do to develop their careers and their personal experiences. And so again, just that authentic relationship, and so that I can connect with people and really know what's going on in their life, so that I know how I can be the best friend and colleague to them now and in the future. But some of the things that I'm passionate about, and my GA experience has kind of added to my passions as the time has gone on, but one thing that I think I'll always be passionate about is just the student development aspect, and the thought that I hope one day I can pay it forward to those that are going to come after me from the mentors that have done the same thing for me. So I'm actually reading a book right now that encourages you to reach out to the people that did that same thing for you. So what are the giants in your life that you're able to now stand on their shoulders and raise someone up above yourself? And so that's really something that's stuck into my mind recently about student development and how I can potentially one day be that giant on which another student can stand upon me and see into the future and develop again. Another thing is just mentoring, because without the mentors in my life, I would not be where I am today, and I'm so grateful for the risk that they took in my life and the strengths that they saw in me that I may not have ever seen in myself. And so just having them explain those to me and see those in me and just pushing me over the edge to where I thought I could go, because like Stan said, those relationships aren't always what you want, but it's what you need. And those people who are able to see what you need and can push you towards that and encourage you and motivate you in that way is something that I'm extremely passionate about, and hope that I can continue to do that for other students in my life.
Well, great. Well, thank you so much for your final thoughts and sharing your passions as we kind of wrap up the show. I am so amazed and actually just very thankful. And I know there's a lot of NIRSA members who are very thankful for both Stan and Erica for their leadership and in guiding our association forward to be more intentional about building people up, as Erica said. And that's what we do as NIRSA members. And so Erica and Stan, they do that and they live it out authentically. So I know I say a big thank you to both of you for being the leaders of our association on behalf of NIRSA. So thank you so much for tuning in, those of you who are watching right now. If you would like to be a part of RecChat, we're always looking for people to become involved with the planning of our shows and just helping out with logistics. Please send us a tweet or an email to see if you can get involved, especially to our students who are really proficient in all of this. We'd love to have you join our team. Don't forget, next month, October 18th, we will be back chatting about student development, and in November we will be talking about digital technology. And so that's it for our show. And again, we'd like to thank our guests, Erica Estes and Stan Shingles, for taking the time out of their busy schedule to be with us all here today. Until next time, my name is Earl Cabellin, the host of RecChat. Have a great day and be well. Thank you so much.